Hello. I want to share a poem about taxes. So, this is mostly for my classes, organizational behavior, and sustainability and global leadership, maybe some future classes. I think my students, it makes sense. It's associated with some of the work that they're doing in those classes, but it might be interesting just in general. This is Charlie Reese's retiring column for the Orlando Sentinel in 2001. So he was a journalist for 49 years and he passed away May of 2013. And this was the final column for him, for Charlie Reese. And he starts off in the column speaking about the 545 people. The title of the column is 545 versus 300 million people. Three branches of our government in the United States. There are three branches of government that make all of the decisions. So the House of Representatives, 100 senators, 435 congressmen, plus one president, and 9 Supreme Court justices equates to 545 people out of the 300 million people that live in America run all of the decisions. They are directly, legally, morally, and individually responsible for the domestic problems that plague this country, the 545 people. So it is wild, okay? So he's speaking about those things. And, I want us to, I am encouraging my students to continue to think critically, critical thinking. So I don't know when this will be watched, but right now we are in the first, we're still in the first 100 days. It's crazy. It does not feel like that. It feels like it's been 1,000 days, but we are in the first 100 days of the Trump administration, the second round of the Trump administration. So what we are seeing here is that their critique, the Trump administration, their critique of the system is that there is this power because of the kind of social promises that are often broken promises to the public. That's a part of the criticism that the current administration has with the ways that things have been done thus far. Okay. And so that's why those things are getting torn down, but it's affecting a lot of people in a very negative way. So it's very much hurting people. So now in the context of the classes, it's organizational behavior. You have to understand, as we are adults and we are more and more in our professional lives and, growing families and being a part of our communities in significant ways, as we are doing more and more of that in our lives, it is important that we are paying attention and participating in the elections of officials that are going to be making political decisions for how our countries and nations are organized and how they are run. But it's important that we understand organizational behavior so that we can just think critically. So it's important that we understand why somebody is making a certain decision. What is their kind of what seems to be their line of thinking, their rationale, their logic for why they are making these decisions? Well, they are saying and essentially that there's a lot of like social power in this like woke rhetoric or whatever. That's the kind of verbiage that they are using to describe a lot of like socialist programs, a lot of programs that are helping foreign aid or homeless people or food stamps and a lot of things that are very much socialist programs. And usually when we're in a more like democratic administration, that democratic administration is, funding those programs so that people can get aid, so that people can get like student aid and aid from their state and their government and Social Security and things like this. That is where the kinds of things that like a universal healthcare program would come from. All of that tends to be based in taxes. Taxes is how those things are going to be funded. It's got to be funded somehow. And I'm not really sure. It seems like the federal government at this day and age could figure out better ways to fund their own operation and like maybe like give, do good service for the people by earning some resources for the people, not stealing them or going to war to get resources, or these kind of negotiations that you do to protect other countries or not protect other countries in order to get access to their resources. It seems like highway robbery. That doesn't seem, this is just from my point of view, right? So agree, disagree, whatever, but you can throw it in the comments whenever you'd like. Give it a like, give it a subscribe if you would like, a thumbs up, those things. Hit the notification bell, because I'm very busy recently, and I just don't know when I publish things. Sometimes, I'm trying to get on a consistent schedule. I'm so busy with everything. And my organizational behavior class, the subtitle is A Systems Approach. And so I need to work on my systems as well. I've been working on my systems a lot this quarter while teaching this course, and just in general all the time. And so also for sustainability, those sustainable initiatives, the initiatives that would result in a more sustainable country, nation, whether that's America or another nation, tend to be funded by democratic socialist efforts and funded by taxes. So that's why the verbiage, the conversation with the Democrat administrations, the House of Democrats, tends to be, tax the rich so that we can, fund all of these initiatives. And I mean, that doesn't sound too bad. Like it kind of, there is some logic behind that about, like, why does one man need to own $1 trillion? $1 trillion is an unreal amount of money. It's just unnecessary for one man to own that much, right? There is some logic behind it, but there could be logic both ways. Anyway, I'm saying those things to just, again, I am encouraging critical thinking. Can you be a critical thinker? Can you depoliticize your own mind? Like get out of the dichotomy of these two parties, maybe. Maybe you find some comfort in identifying with a specific party, and I'm just rolling with the boys. I'm just rolling with the this group of people. We have the same values and things like that. I mean, that's fine too, but critical thinking is really important. And with the rise of AI and LLMs and stuff, we might be losing some of our critical thinking skills. So it's really important. But it's important for those two classes, other classes. I teach in a business program. And so for business, if we are business people, if we are to do practical things in the world, pragmatic application of our ideas, we must understand the organizational dynamics that are the policy changes and laws and the elected officials that represent our communities and things like this. We should really understand that stuff. We should understand both perspectives, and not like only look through this lens of hate, because there's like a lens of hate that people cannot see through, and it's unfortunate. So again, back to the poem, the column. So Charlie Reese says those things about this: 100 senators, 435 congressmen, 1 president, and 9 Supreme Court justices equates to 545 human beings out of the 300 million that are directly, legally, morally, and individually responsible for the domestic problems that plague this country. He talks about the excluded members of the Federal Reserve Board because the problem was created by Congress. So, there's still a problem there, but it was created by Congress. It was created by these elected officials. So he goes on. It's a really great column. It is worth reading that bit in the beginning. It's just about critical thinking. That's all I'm here to encourage. But the title again is 545 versus 300 million people. That's the title. It's by Charlie Reese. It was his retiring column in the Orlando Sentinel. 2001, this was published. So here goes the poem. Ready? Are you ready? Tax his land, tax his bed, tax the table at which he's fed, tax his tractor, tax his mule, teach him taxes are the rule. Tax his work, tax his play, he works for peanuts anyway. Tax his cow, tax his goat, tax his pants, tax his coat, Tax his ties, tax his shirt, tax his work, tax his dirt, tax his tobacco, tax his drink, tax him if he tries to think. Tax his cigars, tax his beers. If he cries, tax his tears. Tax his car, tax his gas. Find other ways to tax his ass. Tax all he has, then let him know that you won't be done until he has no dough. When he screams and hollers, then tax him some more. Tax him till he's good and sore. Then tax his coffin, tax his grave. Tax the sod in which he's laid. Put these words upon his tomb. Taxes drove me to my doom. When he's gone, do not relax. It's time to apply the inheritance tax, accounts receivable tax, building permit tax, CDL license tax, cigarette tax, corporate income tax, dog license tax, excise taxes, federal income tax, federal unemployment tax, fishing license tax, food license tax, fuel permit tax, gasoline tax, gross receipts tax, hunting license tax, inheritance tax, inventory tax, IRS interest charges, IRS penalties, liquor tax, luxury taxes, marriage license tax, Medicare tax, personal property tax, real estate tax, service charge tax, Social Security tax, road usage tax, recreational vehicle tax, sales tax, school tax, state income tax, state unemployment tax, telephone federal excise tax, telephone federal universal service fee tax, telephone federal state and local surge charge taxes, telephone minimum usage surge charge tax, telephone recurring and non-recurring charges tax, telephone state and local tax, telephone usage charge tax, utility taxes, vehicle license registration tax, vehicle sales tax, watercraft registration tax, well permit tax, workers' compensation tax. Still think this is funny? Not one of these taxes existed 100 years ago, and our nation was the most prosperous in the world. We had absolutely no national debt, had the largest middle class in the world, and mom, if agreed, stayed home to raise the kids. What in the hell happened? Can you spell politicians? Woo! Man, I used to pull that out on my phone at parties. This was my party trick. A terrible party trick, like not a great conversation starter, because it's usually a pretty negative conversation. It gets me hot under the neck. I feel it, all these taxes. I feel it under the neck. I feel it is disgusting. It is wretched. You got to pay for these things somehow, so it's like, what is the best way? We have to think about that. We have to be critical thinkers about that. How can we make those decisions? Who would be the right person to make those decisions? It's really fascinating. It's interesting. It's really important for us to understand the organizational dynamics of these things. They are affecting our sustainability initiatives. This is the global leadership. Our generation, is the next generation of people to be leaders in the world. And how are we going to do that? Well, we have to find our voice. We have to use our voice. We have to express ourselves. We have to express our desires, our needs, and we have to fight to make sure that our freedoms are secured and create the world that we want to live in. And so I look forward to doing that with you all. Again, remember to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, comment, share everywhere, share anywhere you want. And I really enjoyed that. Thank you. Bye-bye.